Hello, today we're going to be talking about this thing right here. One sec. Yeah, it is this. It is a mysterious black box that has just made a noise. Oh, it's the plug hitting it. I got this black box a few months ago. It was shipped over from Germany, and it is a bit of an overbuilt lump, but it is the... Oh, we're getting it around, moving it around, getting over here. The ESTRADIN 230. It is a monophonic subtractive synthesizer built in around 1985 in the ESTRADIN plant, which was in Zhytomyr, which is in northwestern Ukraine. It is very strongly based on the Mini Moog. ESTRADIN, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, but they manufactured organs, other types of synthesizers, different musical instruments, effects, and things like that. All manner of tasty electronic musical goodness. When I got this, it was described as working. However, when it got shipped here, it got pretty mushed, which is quite surprising because you see on the outside it's really robust and solid, but when you get on the inside it's all pretty flimsy and low quality. So let's have a look on the back, have a look at the problems, fix them, and get back to it.
So as we turn it around, we can see the back of it. There are two mystery compartments in there that might have been for wires or something, and then you take off the whole back using these 4 wires, and bish bosh bash, we can see the inside. The first thing you notice is this is really wobbly. This is the circuit boards for the whole synthesizer, so I decided to take a bunch of them off, get it out and see what was going on. It worked out that the standoffs, some of them were snapped and some of them were all wobbly and stuff. Something had to be done about that because it was all a bit sketchy. That might have happened in the postage from Germany, but I decided to leave it as it was and get back to the rest of it to see if it was even working.
That wobbliness meant that the power supply ended up dangerously close to shorting on the metal chassis, which would have ended up in magic smoke being released everywhere. 2 of the standoffs had completely snapped off and the other 2 were loose, so something had to be done about it. And try and figure out a way of getting this back to where it's supposed to be, which is around here.
I took it off first. By the way, the narration of this whole video is all over the place because I was testing it before this. Anyway, I managed to get off the original standoffs, which were a bit fudged, and make my own out of metric standoffs, and then basically bolt them in from the front and put 4 in instead of the 2 wobbly ones that were left, and this meant that it was nice and solid. Lovely.
Also, presumably when it got posted over from Germany, the keyboard had came loose and fallen into the chassis and was wobbling all over the place, and there were some keys that weren't really working, so things needed to be remounted and other things needed to be bent back into place.
Yeah, this was the first thing that I noticed when I got it out of the box, is it was just completely fudged. Most of the keys weren't even working, and opening it up and inspecting it, it turns out that it came off the mount that was inside there. A bunch of the standoffs had bent, but I managed to get it kind of solid on there again. There's this weird mysterious metal bar on the bottom. It might be for aftertouch, but later on I found it is for velocity. We're going to look at that later in the video, but yeah, sort of working. At least it's playing freely.
Doesn't all work, but sort of in tune, which is good. At this stage it wasn't 100% functional, but it was functional enough to figure out what the fudge was going on, and finally see if it made any sounds. It sounds pretty damn good actually, and very Mini Moog-like indeed. Anyway, let's get those keys fixed. To fix the keys, each of the keys have 2 sets of springs. The bottom one connects to this rod right here, and that one is for the trigger, so that turns on the note. One at the top is for the key, so when you hit the key down, they both end up touching, but some of them don't, so we've got to adjust some of the contacts to make it work properly. So let's get cracking. The pitch wheel is pretty interesting because it has a center kind of groove, a stop, so it always stays in the center, so it's in tune. But that's because of this magnet right here. You go past it and it attracts it and it lightly holds it in place, which is pretty cool. Also, there were two mysterious coils just hanging around in there. It was suggested by Duncan RMI on a Patreon vlog that maybe these two coils were something to do with the velocity bar that was hanging out underneath the keyboard. And you know what? I think he was onto something. So, yes, it's all obvious now. It seems so obvious. This does have aftertouch. As we looked at, there is a bar, grounded, a rod in the center, and there's a mount where you can put in place. We put both of them in there. I don't think it matters which way round these coils go. The coils are in there now. Whether they're going to do anything is a whole other question. Pushing on the keys, because it's laid down, it's probably not that obvious, but there is a slight movement on that bar. Maybe that is sufficient to do this? I'm not really sure. Also, there was this other intermittent mysterious issue. I don't think it's supposed to be sounding like that. Right, let's see how this thing sounds. So let's have a look at what this synth is all about. Well, you start with the A440, which is also on the Mini Moog, and funnily enough, that is exactly A440. It doesn't even need calibrating. We'll go to start with the first oscillator. Triangle wave, ramp, square. And then maybe we tune it to the A440. Nice. And then we bring in another oscillator. This one is exactly the same as that. You've also got a D tune for this one. Bring in the third one. You've got a pitch bend. You've got glide. Nice. And of course, you've got a filter which sounds incredibly like a Moog style filter. It's basically acting, you know, to enact a Mini Moog, it seems like. The way that when you add more of the emphasis, the Q, the resonance, the low end gets pulled out. You also got white noise. The third oscillator you can turn off being controlled by the keyboard, so you can use it more like a solid oscillator, a solid LFO. So if you turn it down and we bring... Right, it's affecting the filter now. Speed it up. Obviously you can still have this modulating everything and have it controlled by the keyboard at the same time. So it gives a sort of tuned FM kind of sound to it. Make it square wave to make it more pronounced. You can use it more like a standard filter. You've got the amount of contour, which comes from the modifier, which is basically an attack, decay, sustain. But if you turn on the memory, it turns a decay into a release. So it's got memory, it kind of remembers the key. I also found that messing with the power switch added some really funky tonal properties. All in all, the ESTRADIN 230 is a pretty interesting synthesizer because it is pretty much laid out and sounds the same as a Mini Moog. I mean, it's not exactly the same, but it's very similar. The build quality isn't the greatest. I think the ruggedness might come into question, even when it weighs more than a washing machine. But if you can get over the flimsy switches, it is pretty damn snazzy. If you're interested in playing on this synthesizer, then come and play it over at This Museum's Not Obsolete. It will be set up with a pair of headphones so you can have a jam to your heart's content. There's a bunch of sounds that you can download and use from this, as well as other videos over on Patreon, which needless to say really helps support these videos. Anyway, that's enough from me, Estradio. Play us out.